Once a week in 3rd grade, I got to leave class early and go down the hallway for speech therapy. I had trouble with my R's, and so my favorite Sesame Street character was Big Bud, and my favorite color at the time was purple. And so I went down the hall for speech therapy with my friend Julie, and I thought that was great. I got to leave class early. We were always doing math at that time in the afternoon, so I got to leave. I got to do something like a little special, a little different. And basically, speech therapy was playing a bunch of different games and not doing any real work. So I started to tell my classroom teacher, Mrs. Cooney, that we needed to go down a little earlier. And that worked out great. We would come in, 2 or 3 minutes early, and we'd have like 2 or 3 more minutes of playing these games. Until the day that I flew too close to the sun, and I said to Mrs. Cooney, we need to go down 10 minutes early. And she was like, okay. And she let us go down the hallway. And so me and Julie go down, and we burst into the speech room, and the speech teacher's not there because we're 10 minutes early, which is like a mecca for an 8-year-old that we just get to like goof off in this classroom. Until Mrs. Cooney calls down to the classroom to make sure that we have arrived and are where we need to be. And the phone rings, and Julie and I look at each other, and I answer it. And I answer it like I've been trained to do as an 8-year-old, which is chain residence, giving myself away immediately. And I realize what I've done, and I slam down the phone. And then Julie and I go back to goofing off. So Mrs. Cooney sends down another classmate of ours, Maria, to come down the hallway and tell us that we're in big trouble and we need to come back to the classroom right away. Me, as an 8-year-old, was a little bit of a ham, especially when I felt like I had an audience. And so Maria's in the doorway telling me to come back to class. Julie's looking at me like, what's she gonna do next? And I stand up on the table and I put my hands on my hips and I say, you're not the boss of me. And Maria turns around and goes back down the hallway like she's gonna take this message to my 3rd grade teacher. And I guess she does, because a few minutes later, Mrs. Cooney comes down the hallway to tell me exactly how much trouble that I'm in. She definitely called my parents that day. So if you fast forward a couple decades, my parents are in the process of clearing out and getting ready to sell my childhood home, the house that me and my siblings grew up in. And it's been harder than I thought it would be. To think about the memories in that house and to think about the last few times that I'll be in that space. And in the process, one of the things that I've agreed to help my parents do is digitize our old home videos, all the VHS tapes from the 1990s, where I have been heavily reminded of my speech impediment of yesteryear. But it also has reminded me that it's not just this one house that I grew up in. It is my aunt and uncle's houses, my grandparents, and all these different spaces that have become like home. And it has provided me a chance to also hear the voices and see the faces of people that we have lost. My grandma, most recently, in the past year. And it wasn't until hearing her voice on one of the videotapes that it sunk in for me that change is constant and you can't hold on to everything forever. And so there is no place like home, but I am grateful that we still have the memories.